Being residents of the beautiful mountain state of Colorado, my girlfriend and I decided to take a trip down to the Denver area to check out all of the local comic book, card, and video game related stores in the area. So, if you enjoy that type of thing, come along with us on our little journey to explore all of the major shops in the Denver metro area. We started our excursion at a small shop called Games Plus in the Westminster area. It was an unassuming store run by an old Asian man and his grandson, it looked like, and it mostly looked like it sourced a lot of bulk products from various yard sales or perhaps bulk deals that people would bring in. It had a fair amount of interesting things on the shelves, but a lot of it was a little bit older and undesirable. And their prices were a little bit overpriced, I'm not gonna lie. But it was kind of a fun little hole in the wall to start the journey. Next, we went to a store called Game Heroes, which was largely a card store. They had a plethora of display cases and stuff to buy on the shelves, and it was just very organized and clean overall. You can definitely tell it was a hobbyist shop where a lot of people would congregate for various events and card games and stuff like that, and they obviously had a lot of merch for sale related to things like D&D and tabletops, but their card selection was actually very impressive. They had a good variety of Pokemon cards as well as sports cards, so it appealed to definitely like several different demographics in the area. And their stuff was pretty fairly priced for the time as well. They obviously had a good variety of both singles and slabs, and even had some sealed product available, which was nice to see as well. Even in the back of the store, tucked away, they had a bunch of retro video games, including a lot of stuff for the GameCube, which I like to personally collect since I grew up playing it a lot. We ended up picking up some TCG packs, mostly One Piece, since that's mostly what we collect as far as cards go, and I also picked up a copy of Mario Kart Double Dash because I hadn't added it back into my collection from childhood. We ended our first day of hobby shopping with the best for last, honestly. It was a decent-sized shop in the same Westminster area called Level 7, and this is more of a chain place that exists all throughout the Denver metro area. The art they had on the exterior of the building, as well as just around the building, definitely appealed to the more nerdy demographic. They had a gigantic variety of merchandise in general, all the way from plush to stickers and keychains. They had an extensive variety of TCG-related cards as well. Tons of Magic the Gathering, tons of Pokemon, plenty of Lorcana, some Yu-Gi-Oh!, and actually a huge variety of One Piece as well. What had to be the coolest thing that they had there, though, was a room of holy grails. Like, we're talking retro games from the 80s and 90s, still complete in box, various like rare forms of cards, just kiosks, complete in box stuff that you just wouldn't see normally or has gone out of print and gone up in price substantially. All kinds of different cool rare games that are heavily sought after, and some that were just very low print. But overall, a very cool room, very well presented behind these secure glass cases. They had a bunch of displays around, which made it fun. And it was just kind of like an encapsulated little space away from the general store that you could just kind of admire some of gaming history. And on top of that, it was just some pure nostalgia for me. I mean, I grew up with some of these games like Jak and Dexter, playing Bioshock, different things like that. But it was very cool to also see some older stuff or some more niche stuff that I had just never heard of before. But any way you slice it, definitely some cool stuff in this room. But apart from the good amount of real estate in that room, the store itself is just massive. It wraps around and goes back very far in many different directions, and you get to see all kinds of cool looking displays, and it segments everything very cleanly, so you can go to one side of the store to get video games, to the other side of the store to get TCG, and the staff were very helpful as well. I have to note that if you are a gamer living a little bit north of Denver, this is probably your go-to spot for retro pickups as well. They just had so much variety of all of the different consoles from like, you know, even like 5th generation stuff onwards. Just shelves packed with all kinds of goodies. We definitely picked a few things up ourselves, which I'll probably go over after I talk about this place in detail. It had just so many different like posters and displays and cool things that you could just, you know, clutter your house with if you really wanted to. They had a lot of stuff in display cases that was a little bit older and more valuable as well, but just a huge amount of variety in video games for anybody in the Denver area that's looking for something. It's a pretty good bet that they're going to have something or something similar to it in this store. And just to reiterate, guys, I know I sound like a little bit of a broken record, but they just had so much card variety as well. If you were looking for any kind of single of any kind of TCG, they just had a plethora of things to choose from. And as card collectors ourselves, and people that don't just collect Pokemon, like, it was very much appreciated to see a bunch of really crispy, near mint looking singles in display cases. So if you're a card collector, this is also a fantastic place to get some cards. I think they do look up the pricing, which is a little bit unfortunate, but if you're looking to pay market for something and you don't want to wait for it to be shipped, this is probably a good place for you. And that about wrapped up our exploration of day one, and it was quite a banger to end with, so we were looking forward to seeing what the next day would hold, but we were pretty tapped out for the day. The next day, we hit up my buddy and went on a small hike in the Boulder area. As you can see, it was a very foggy day, but being in Boulder, we decided to go to Boulder's biggest comic book shop. Time Warp is definitely a very nostalgic place for me because I worked in Boulder for over 10 years and used to frequent going there to check things out every so often. Just when I had some spare time. They had just recently changed locations right before our visit, so this was completely a look at their new facility, which used to be where an old thrift shop was. As you can imagine, they had a huge variety of comic books and omnibuses. They definitely had a healthy variety of new stuff, but they also had several boxes of older comics as well. And it looked like they had a pretty good catalog in the back as well that they could pull from if you requested anything. One thing that I thought was pretty cool was that they had a bunch of old Dark Horse Star Wars comics. And I used to read those a lot in the library when I was a kid, so it was cool to see some of the older Star Wars comics from the pre-Disney era as well. Even though this store is incredibly comic book heavy and didn't have a lot of other types of collectibles, it did have a variety of statuettes and various action figures that could be bought, and added a nice, aesthetic to the store, just complementing kind of the more superhero comic book-esque focus of most of their shelves. So definitely not the biggest display in town, or in the Denver metro area, I guess I should say, but definitely pretty cool. We didn't spend any time doing anything else that day, but the next day we hit up our biggest stop, which is Mile High Comics, right in the dead center of downtown Denver. And boy, is this the biggest warehouse full of comic books and nerdy paraphernalia that you could ever find. This place is massive, as you can see from the exterior of the building here. Given the sheer size of this place and the volume of things that are inside it, I have to imagine that a lot of people are selling their collections out of here, maybe renting space, but it could just be like a conglomerate of really wealthy collectors that have been collecting for literal decades that just have a bunch of stuff that they need to offload onto the general public. That being said, this place acts more like a museum than a place to buy things because, oh boy, are all these collectibles super overpriced. There's a bunch of vintage statuettes and all kinds of display pieces. And literally, guys, I couldn't even show you all the displays because there's just so many glass cases full of old Marvel and DC characters and various collectibles of, a bunch of different IPs in statue form. It literally, like I literally recorded probably about 8 minutes of just kind of browsing front to back of one of these aisles. So yeah, I mean, they definitely had the largest variety in the Denver metro area that we saw of various things like this, but the pricing definitely was there because everything was so centralized, and obviously they're kind of trying to create some kind of monopoly on collectibles in the downtown area. If you are like a statuette collector though, they probably have what you're looking for in here, especially if you're into the superhero genre of those types of things, because my god, they had statuettes of all shapes and sizes, and I actually just couldn't believe the sheer volume that was in this place. I mean, granted, it is a giant warehouse, so I don't know what I expected walking into it, but for a place, you know, that's largely about comics, it definitely had a huge variety of figurines as well. And these figurines weren't limited to just small statuettes, but they had full life-size displays of certain characters as well. I'm pretty sure a lot of these were not for sale, but I'm sure if you named the right price, you could probably talk to somebody and get them. That being said, guys, they definitely did focus a lot on comics in this Mile High comic store. As you can see, they definitely had a decent variety of manga as well. In fact, there was kind of a whole area dedicated to collector's editions, and they had, you know, lineups of various manga on the shelves. The place was largely themed around Western comics, but they definitely did have some Japanese representation here as well. The Western comics were definitely the main focus though, and were out on display in several different formats. They even had like all of their backstock just visible, and it took up pretty much, you know, like half of the warehouse, but they had like a whole filing system, and you could just walk and see row after row of things that were cataloged and organized in a way that they could just, you know, pick something out if you wanted to request it, which honestly, I think that's pretty cool. When I said that this place is a museum, guys, I wasn't kidding. They just had so much history up on the walls of this place in the form of comic books. And if you're the type of person that gets nostalgic about comics from a bygone era, from like decades ago, this is a really cool place to just come and look at things. Like, I know the pricing's pretty crazy here, and there's a lot of like graded collectible comics and stuff that they had in display cases and whatnot. So it might be like out of the average person's price range, but this, like, if you're the type of person that just likes to go to museums and look at pieces of history and just different artifacts and stuff, like, this place is basically that for comic books. Like, there were so many graded comics everywhere. They even had graded comics of like the original #1 Superman and like Wonder Woman and stuff like that. Like, it was absolutely crazy the rarity of some of these comics that they had here. A lot of the retro stuff that we saw that was pretty cool here too was just other forms of collectibles, like various action figures from, you know, old monster movies, or there was a bunch of like vintage Star Trek action figures and paraphernalia, stuff that might not have sold so well like during the era that it existed. Like, it might have just been very commonplace and overprinted, and people had like probably a bunch of stuff in their collections, or just bought a bunch of collectibles thinking that they would be valuable someday, and decided to finally just sell it in bulk in this place. So yeah, guys, it was a very unique experience, and like I said, the whole place felt like kind of a museum. You were walking back in time and looking at like products from a different era. And it actually like was a bit nostalgic too, because I recognized a lot of the stuff from when I was a little kid, seeing it in store shelves. And you know, stuff from the 90s and the 2000s. There was just a lot of collectible stuff that made me nostalgic for some of the stuff that I grew up being shown by my parents. So yeah, guys, I would definitely recommend checking this place out. If nothing else, just to kind of see all the stuff that's in here. Everything's, like I said, a bit overpriced, so I wouldn't recommend maybe like buying a lot of stuff here. But yeah, at least come and see the historical museum of nerdy stuff that is Mile High Comics. Since we were downtown, we decided to hit up this small store called the Hobby Source, which is pretty much just a TCG store. This is honestly like the perfect size for a card shop too. Just a nice hole-in-the-wall place that you can buy like TCG products. They had a ton of One Piece products, which is what I collect, so that's mostly what I cared about. But apart from some crispy One Piece singles, they of course had a plethora of Pokemon as well, which of course any TCG shop should. I picked up this crispy looking Usopp card, and of course my girlfriend had to match my energy, so she picked up a nice crispy boa. All in all, they had a pretty good selection for how small the store was. A lot of cool like vintage stuff, and just a lot of cool display pieces. Some graded stuff, as well as some singles that were just kind of nostalgic stuff. Some base set, a variety of different Pokemon cards mostly, but like I said, they had a little bit of variety, which was nice. That Shanks card was just popping out at me, so of course I had to grab it. A little off center, but nothing too big of a deal there. Still a cool looking card, and of course the Soga King as well. Very cool looking card. I got both of those graded actually. The Shanks was of course off centered, so it didn't get a perfect grade, but I did get it on the Usopp. And on top of that, we grabbed a little bit of package as well. We got some Fusion World Dragon Ball here, and grabbed some Japanese OP11 as well, which I don't think I got anything out of that pack if I remember correctly. But yeah, and then my girlfriend picked up a couple One Piece singles as well. A Squard, which he's a Whitebeard pirate, and she also got that cool looking boa, which maybe she'll grade one day, who knows. We ended up driving around that day and eventually ended up at this mall pretty far away from the main metro area, and there wasn't a whole lot going on here. It was kind of a bummer. We went to some other stores in the mall to try to make the trip worth it, but yeah, not much to report here, guys. It was a little place called Game Zone in a mall, maybe about like 45 minutes away from Boulder, more towards the southern side of the mountain range, and yeah, just not a whole lot here that was worth looking at or picking up. Yeah, just very basic shovelware games on the shelves. And the day that we headed out of town, our last stop was a place called Heroes Headquarter Comics. As you can see, it's very hero themed on the outside. They had a pretty large selection of comics as well in this place, and the presentation was really nice. I have to say, this is a place close to where I lived at one point, and I've been in here a couple times before myself. Largely, they had a bunch of cool, like collectible items, a lot of, more, figurines and stuff like that all over the place. They had a pretty decent range of IPs, which was a little refreshing. Like most places that we went to, it was predominantly superheroes, but this place had a good variety for sure. This was definitely towards the end of our trip, however, and we were getting a little burnt out on comics and collectibles, so we were heavily distracted by the plethora of Lego that they had out on display. And I think my girlfriend even picked up one of these figures. I don't remember which one, but it was a fun time. But anyway, guys, that pretty much sums up our experience looking at cards, comic, and video game related stores on the Front Range. Let us know down in the comment section below which one was your favorite and you might potentially want to visit if you're ever in the Denver metro area. I know there were definitely a couple that stood out for us, that's for sure. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, please like. We get up to all kinds of interesting collectible shenanigans, and sometimes we do travel videos like this, but oftentimes we are getting into other things as well, and we'll probably expand into other types of nerdy content in the future. So if you want to be around for that, subscribe and stick around. Anyway, have a good one, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace!